Okay, Mark, I think you're doing this one because I don't see Dottie here yet.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so one of the issues we always come up with is our time, because time is valuable to us. There's a slight change in the contract here. For secondary schools, we have a continuous block of 45 minutes daily of planning time during the student day. That's been, that we had that. There's an addition, which is the one in blue, but please note the following words: continuous. Okay, so that is 45 minutes that are consecutive, is another way of saying it. So they can't split that time up. We get it. Also, one of the things I'm glad that's new here is this part in blue, which says a minimum of 2 days per week. A teacher shall receive a full class period. Okay, so we always get this thing with it. Somebody threatens to say, well, if we can go into your planning time, exceed, so we don't have the 45 minutes, then they're going to make us, come to these planning sessions all the time. Okay, well, they can't do that under this provision. At least 2 days a week that we get the full planning time. What else did I say? Also note that it is, does not include collaborative planning. This is our time to be alone, if you will. Okay. Okay.
And if I can say real quick, Mark, the blue part here also means if most secondary periods last longer than 45 minutes. So if your periods are 80 minutes long, twice a week, you get the full 80 minutes. And so that is, you need to make sure your principal has scheduled that time in.
Yeah, and could you go back a second?
Yeah.
Gary? One thing that has been misunderstood is that 45 minutes is our time. Okay, not their time. So some schools have said, oh, that's 45 minutes for them. No, that's 45 minutes for you. So the time they get is X minus 45 minutes, X meaning the full period. Okay, so if your period is 87 minutes, you take 87, you subtract it by 45, and that remainder, which I can't do off the top of my head, is what their time is. Your time is always at 45 minutes. Okay, elementary school, this is a change too. A minimum of 240 minutes of planning for each unit. The minimum of 200, that's an additional, isn't that additional 10 minutes? Is that right, Gary? I can't remember.
15, I believe.
15. Okay. So it's up for what it was before. You get.
No, I take that back. It's 20 minutes. It was 220 before.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So we get that additional 20 minutes if you're in secondary. You're in elementary. A minimum of 200 minutes shall be scheduled during the day in daily blocks of no less than 40 minutes. Additional 40 minutes can be scheduled outside the student day and shall be in blocks not less than 20 minutes where possible. So during the day, you get that 40 minutes of uninterrupted time.
Brian, the second trivia question.
All right, I hope we could do better on this second one here. Let's go. So question number 2, Unit 1 members will be compensated in addition to the regular pay at the hourly rate of $30 when an unscheduled emergency requires that a member does not receive all or a portion of.
I'm not seeing the question on my screen. Is everybody else seeing it?
Off. You don't see the question?
No.
No.
Okay, I launched it.
There it
Tell me,
is.
can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So you have 30 seconds for this one. All right, the answers are coming in. Got about half of the audience that participated. We'll give a few more seconds here. Don't be afraid. Give another 15 seconds or so. Still a few folks to answer here. All right. We're going to try to get to 75% participation, just about. And there we go. So did a lot better this time. Can you see the results? The results here, lunch, recess, duty coverage is in fact the correct answer. So got 69% of the audience that answered correct. And again, we'll select the correct answer at random and announce the winners at the end.
Back to you, Mark. You're on mute, Mark.
Okay, here I am. Okay, sorry, folks. Okay, so collaborative planning shall not be counted towards the minimum planning time. Okay, so collaborative planning, we still get our 45 minutes in secondary and our 40 minutes in elementary. Okay, does not. We've been promoting this for a few years now. So please, 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 do not let them take away your planning time for collaborative planning. Okay. There's the rules for it. I'm going to go to skip to C there. Any non-instructional time labeled as collaborative planning shall not be counted towards the required minimum contractual planning time. There it is again. Like, we can't stress this enough. Okay. And there is a model we are supposed to be following, and it is supposed, the collaborative planning is supposed to come from the teachers, not from admin. Okay. And this is the document that we have about how to guide collaborative planning.
And I believe you can find that through the staff portal. I can't get in there, so I've seen it, but I just have a copy of it, but we can't see it online.
And this is what we're supposed to do during collaborative planning.
And basically now, if your administration is not following this, if they're using collaborative planning for meetings that they could send in an email or for something that they want to do, that would be something that should be brought to them as a contract violation.
And you could bring that to them, how, Gary? Through the FAC.
Yep, to the FAC or the building rep or even the UNICEF. I'm going to get into that at the end, but thanks for starting that.
Okay. The following is not to be counted towards contractual planning time. Collaborative planning. We can't stress this enough. Mandatory meetings. No, you get your 45 minutes. IP meetings, parent conferences, called by administration, mandatory tutoring, or any other type 1 unit 1 member is required to be with students and parents. So these are not to encroach on your planning time. And of course, lunch, we get 30 minutes of lunch, as do the students.
Okay, we're going to switch over to Lynn.
Thank you. So substituting, as we know, this year, past few years, this has been a really important issue. You need to know your rights. So as a any unit 1 member who volunteers or is assigned to cover or teach a class other than the regular scheduled class shall be compensated in addition to the regular pay at an hourly rate of $30 payable in no less than 1 hour increments. So for example, I work in a middle school. We have mods of 72 minutes. So if I substitute for 1 mod, I get 30 minutes plus 1 hour. So it's considered $60 per that mod. If you substitute for more than 1 mod during the day, your calculation goes to then minutes. So for example, if I'm substituting 2 mods during that day, my calculation is not going to be $60 and $60. It's going to be by minutes, 72 minutes plus 72 minutes. So please be aware of that difference, because many of us are asked to sub multiple mods during the day that goes over the 60-minute increment. In the event a unit 1 member is absent and no substitute is available and the principal divides the class between staff members, the unit members to whom the students are assigned shall be compensated in addition to their regular pay at the established long-term degree substitute hourly rate of $30 for each instructional period. Additional students are assigned to their classroom, payable in no less than 1 hour increments. So if a class is divided between 2 teachers, each teacher is entitled to that $30, not split $30 in half. Each one is entitled to that $30. When a unit 1 member is assigned to a co-taught class and is absent and no substitute is available, the remaining co-teacher shall be compensated in addition to their regular pay at an hourly rate of $30 per each student instructional hour in no less than half-hour increments. So whether it's the gen ed teacher that is being left alone with the students and the co-teacher is absent, or the co-teacher is left alone and the gen ed's teacher is absent, this applies.
This is a change, is it not?
It
No,
is.
this was, we got this in the last contract.
Okay.
One thing to note, though, in the case of co-teachers, they can measure it in half hours because sometimes a special educator, let's say, who's co-teaching with you, might be pulled for a short period of time, in which
Correct.
case you would get the $15. But if they're out for 35 minutes, it goes back up to the full hour pay.
Right. So for example, if as a special educator, my general educator needs to go to an IEP meeting and I have to cover for 30 minutes, 25 minutes, I get that $30 for the half hour. In the event a Unit 1 member is designated by an assigned supervisor to cover the caseload work of another Unit 1 position, in addition to their regular assignment, the Unit 1 member shall be compensated $30 for fiscal year 23, $32 for fiscal year 24, and $34 for fiscal year 25 per hour in no less than 1 hour increments for such additional assignment. In the event a non-classroom based teacher is absent and the principal supervisor divides the work caseload between multiple staff members, the unit members to whom the work is assigned shall be compensated, in addition to their regular pay, to $30 for fiscal year 23, $32 for fiscal year 24, $34 and $34 for fiscal year 25 in no less than hourly increments.
And if I can, Lynn, just a couple of quick notes on this. PGCEA has been pushing the administration to update the forms related to substitute pay and create some clear forms and directions on the non-classroom based educators when they're being covered, because that's totally new language. And they keep telling us that all timekeepers and payroll employees have been taught how they're supposed to do this. They're also now sharing the information with principals, and they're supposed to be sharing the forms and information with us as well. Also, any subbing you've done this year, if you've already been paid at the old rate, they owe you $12 for each hour that you sub. So any substitute pay that's been paid in this school year at the old rate, they need to catch you up with the new rate, which was retroactive to July 1.
And my advice is always keep a copy, make a copy of that timesheet that you turn in for substituting and do your own calculations. So when you get your check, you can compare it against their calculations to make sure it's correct.
Ryan, next trivia question.
All right, so let's get to that. Question number 3. This is kind of a curveball here. All right, we'll give another 10 seconds or so. We're almost at 70%. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end and share the results. All right, so 76% said $30. I think we need to break this down a little bit. So Lynn, you just did this part here. So what is the correct answer?
For 45 minutes.
Yep.
It's half an hour increments if it's a co-teacher, so that's $60.
That would be $60.
What say you, committee members?
I know the answer, so I'm not going to jump
Gary
in.
knows. Gary, the Oracle, please.
Because it can be confusing. So you want to make sure that.
Very confusing. But if
All
it's
right.
half an hour increments and you have 45 minutes that you're covering, that's more than half an hour. So that would be $60 in my opinion. What do you say, Gary?
No, it would be $30 because it's more than half an hour, so it's not cut in half, but it's not over an hour. It's only 45 minutes. So you get the full hour's pay, $30.
See that? Say I'm wrong. There you go.
That
So
is actually correct.
ooh, and I'm wrong.
That
I'm
is
so sorry.
That is correct. So yeah, it's confusing, but I hope that that explains it. And I don't know if everybody, the 76% got this correct by accident, or if you thought with that same methodology, but that is the correct answer. I'm gonna stop
Well,
sharing.
and going on that too, there's a lot, like Brian said, there's a lot of confusion here. So, as we get very familiar with all these outlier questions that appear, and I call them gray areas as well. But in our question and answer chat, I see questions about destructive student that has to be removed from the class. So we will get to all your answers, and if we can't answer them tonight and we have to talk again tomorrow when we all meet, we will get to these answers, because there's a lot of great questions and we do have a lot of areas that are kind of gray. So please keep the questions coming.
Okay. Okay. Back to me. Okay. So, we want to talk about the attendance and grading changes with the new contract. We have procedures which are some of which need to be updated, as we will see. These administrative procedures, the big ones are attendance, which is AP 5113, and then the grading, which is 5121. You see 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 for different schools. Okay, now this is kind of key. This administrative procedure, the attendance one, 5113, will be reviewed for recommended changes. This is part of the contract by January 30th, 2023. Okay, so it has been updated, but it will need to reflect the new contract. All right, so as usual, we are required to enter attendance into SchoolMax, otherwise known as Harris School Solutions. It has not been SchoolMax for quite some time. We all still call it that. But we are not responsible for taking or recording attendance when on approved leave. That's Article 8H in the contract, folks, which I honestly, this one I think is great, because it is kind of nuts to be responsible for attendance in your class when you're not there. Okay. Practically, they're going to have to figure out how to do that. When I sub for a class, I just send it to the teacher. I just send the attendance sheet to the teacher. You might do that way in your school, or your school should come up with a way where they tell someone like the attendance secretary that the person subbing for their class should submit to the attendance secretary because of this provision. If we are not there in the classroom, we are not responsible for attendance, which makes sense because we're not there for it. Okay. Now, this is very important, I think. Contacting parents regarding attendance. Okay, we are still required to contact parents per admin proc. There it is, 5113. Okay. If the student missed at least 10% of school days in a quarter, the parent / guardian must be called or emailed by the teacher. I stress email because some principals and APs are saying you have to call them. You have to call them. That is the old way. Okay, and I do stress old. Okay, email is an acceptable form. Now look at the underlying thing. The admin proc does not require a response from the parent. Okay, so we've had people tell some certain people in admin to tell us, if you contact them and they don't contact you back, that does not count as a parent contact, excuse me. That is what I call folk language. Okay, that is not in the contract. That is not in the admin procedures. We need to contact students regarding attendance call, or email. That is our requirement. It's not, we are not required to get a response back for it to count. Again, some of us have been told this by administration. Please, like I say, it's a new day. We have to keep teachers in this profession. Let's obey the new contract and not put all the work on us. All right, next one. Okay. Chronically absent students to administration. Okay, so let's look at this real quick. If there's no change in the student's absences, the teacher of record will submit the student's name to the grade level administrator or principal to communicate via telephone, letter, or email with the student and parent guardians. Who, look at that sentence, who contacts via telephone, letter, or email the parent? Is it us or is it the administrator? Okay, and we are required to submit the names of the people to be contacted. We are not required to contact them. Okay, sit forms. We are required. Let's read it. Student F3. Students with chronic absences, both lawful and unlawful, will be referred to the student intervention team, SIT, to address the underlying problems that lead to absenteeism. Okay, so someone, doesn't say who, is required to fill out a SIT form. Okay, again, is it our responsibility to contract via telephone, letter, or email? No. Okay. But we are required to at least tell the grade administrator or the principal. If you want to do it, that's cool, by the way. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but we should be not getting in trouble if we have filled out a SIT form or have told the grade administrator or principal.
One interesting thing is because we have now language that says you only have to do what's in the admin procedure. If your principal is adding layers beyond the admin procedure, that is now subject to the grievance process if it gets to that point. If a teacher is told to do something beyond what's in the admin procedure, and then they get a response from the principal, some kind of corrective action, they should contact their UNISERV because that would be something that is grievable.
Okay, now this is a key change. The contacting parents regarding grades. Okay, the negotiated agreement, Article 8J. Classroom teachers will input grades according to the PGCEA grading procedures and conference communicate with parents, caregivers on scheduled parent teacher conference days. Okay, so we are required to do that upon request of the parent. Okay, we could, if the parent requests it, or, and I like this part, as deemed necessary by the classroom teacher. Okay, so if we want to communicate with the parents, we can do that. Okay, however, okay, we are no longer required to contact parents by phone when the student is failing. Contact counts when we timely complete, update, and post grades into with AP 5121. Okay, folks, this is a concession to our benefit, and I hope we will take advantage of it. That folks, when students are failing, it is up to us, not them. We cannot get in trouble unless we do not attend a parent-teacher conferences or the parent requests it. It's a new day. We should not be responsible for this, and we are not under the new contract. Okay. There are the grading procedures, which I have. I think will have to be changed. AP 5121 says that we must contact the parents when the grade, when they're failing or falls 2 grade levels. That is no longer in effect. So they're gonna have to change that part of the 5121. That's gonna have to change because that conflicts with the contract. Okay, and there it is again, okay, on the bottom. We can communicate upon the request of a parent or deemed necessary by the classroom teacher. Again, this is no longer our responsibility because we want to keep people in this profession and not be blamed all the time. That's my little editorial. Okay. Okay.
Okay, this is Suzanne.
So salary clarification. In October, those persons who were returning after completing last year were eligible to receive the one-time $1,000 retention. In November, everyone's salary should have updated and you should have seen your increased pay with your last check. In December, you'll be getting your retro pay, and that goes back to July 1 of this year. Our COLAs and our actual monies break down as such. For SY23, which is this year, if you're on steps 1 through 20, you're getting a 6% COLA and you're getting a step. If you're on step 21, you can't get a step, so you're getting a 1% differential. For SY24, which is next year, everyone gets a step that's on 1 through 20. Everyone gets a 4% COLA. And if you're in step 21, again, you get the 1% longevity. And again, for SY25, the last year of our contract, everyone will get a step if years 1 through 20, a 3% COLA, and step 21 will also get a 1% longevity.
Okay, I'm going to go over quickly. So we've gone over, again, there were over 80 changes to the contract. So there are things we didn't have time to go over today, but really quickly, we're going to do a training later in the year about grievances. But if you do think there is a contract violation, and go back to what Dr. Windsor said at the beginning of this meeting, making sure the contract is followed is the job of every Unit 1 member as well as administration. So people need to be protecting the contract as both a united faculty, but even as individuals. So if you think there is a contract violation at your work site, one, discuss the issue with your building rep, FAC members, or the UNISERV director assigned to your building. If you have any questions, you're not sure how you want to approach it, you're like, is this actually a contract violation? Have some conversation. Make sure, again, to be a violation, it has to be a violation of something written in the contract. The other thing Suzanne said, not everything that doesn't make sense that happens in school is a contract violation. There's lots of crazy stuff that goes on that is not directly mentioned or covered in the contract. Then you need to try and solve the problem at the lowest level. One goal, the whole goal of having a contract is to use the contract to resolve problems as quickly as possible and at the lowest level. And the lowest level is at the school between the Unit 1 member and their administrator. So try to solve the problem at the lowest level by talking to the administrator, hearing their explanation for what they did, and then give them a chance to address the concern. After that discussion, follow up with a written communication, an email to that administrator, copy your UNISERV director if you want to, summarizing what was said and agreed at the meeting. So for example, if you weren't getting your full 30-minute lunch because they had you moving kids around either to and from the cafeteria during part of your lunch, and then you met and you decided, okay, a para was going to take the students instead of you, follow up in writing that is the solution to the problem. If there is no solution after that meeting, if the principal says, no, my way is fantastic, I'm right, I understand the contract better than you do, or, I just think we got to do what's right for kids so we can violate the contract. If that happens, contact your UNISERV director about next steps, including filing a formal grievance. And so if it doesn't work out at the lowest level, then we move it to the actual grievance process. Actually, the second step that's here, number 2 on this slide, that could be considered the first step of a grievance, because the first step of a grievance is an informal conversation between the potential grievant and the administrator. And again, if that doesn't work out, talk to your UniServe director. If you don't know who your UniServe director is, you can find it on the PGCEA website under member information, I think it's called. Okay, we're going to go to questions. I know we had Jason was kind of monitoring any questions that came up in Facebook. Suzanne, you're pretty good at pulling questions from the chat in
I have a
Zoom.
few that are good from the chat that are,
Okay,
like,
why don't
I
you?
don't know, it's kind of gray area.
All right, why don't we start with a couple, and then Jason can give us a couple that he might have gotten on Facebook.
Okay, from Michelle Parker. If a teacher is covering a class, substituting for an absent teacher, and receives additional students from a split class, is that member entitled to pay for both groups or just covering the first class?
Wow, that is a fantastic
That's
question.
a good one.
I've never thought about that one. My thinking is that it's one of those gray areas where I think the argument could be made that indeed you were covering already, then you were given additional students. So my thinking is you put in for both the sub pay for covering a class, and then you also put in the sub pay for taking additional students. And then we might have, that one might be one that we have to actually file a grievance on, or perhaps the system will say, wow, that makes sense, and they would agree to it. But I would say in that case, definitely file for both. Put in your paperwork for both.
Another question I thought was pretty good. If a principal has your post-observation conference during your planning period, and they go beyond the time, so it cuts into your guaranteed 45, do they have to make up that time?
I think what you have the right to do at that point is bring up to the principal. We're going into my planning time. You could either volunteer to finish the meeting to get it done, or you could say, we're going to need to reschedule and finish this tomorrow during your time. I think it would be up to the individual. So they could either say, I'm now on my individual planning time. I have things to do. I didn't plan to not have my planning, and I'm not volunteering to stay in this meeting. Let's finish it the next time you have during your time at a future date.
Another good question from Maria about the 1% longevity. How is that calculated? Is it 1% of our gross pay?
It is, yeah, it is 1% of your yearly pay spread out over all your pay periods, just like your normal pay. It's not part of your salary though. So it shows up on your pay stub as a separate line item. I can't remember exactly what they're calling it, but it is not figured in as salary.
And this is a burning question I've gotten a number of times. When will the salary changes for NBCT certified people go into effect?
That is a great question, and we are working on it now. We were told because the state is providing the 10,000 of the additional $13,000 in salary, that those that they had to approve all the folks that were getting the money. So PGCPS had to send the names of the MBCT teachers from Prince George's County, and that we were waiting on word. There's some dispute now about whether that actually is true, that the money was held up while the state looked at it. So we are trying to find out and get that money started as soon as possible, because it'll be the same thing. We want to get this worked out before the new year starts, so it's spread out over 2 years, not all in 1 year.
Another question about FAC. FAC is utilized to communicate concerns to the supervisor. One of the slides here read that potential grievances are put to the FAC. Has the role of FAC changed?
That's a great question. And Brian, jump in if you want to say anything about this one. The FAC does not have an official role in filing grievances. The FAC can handle any issue of concern in the operations of the school in the work of the Unit 1 members. So they don't have an official role in a grievance, and mostly they should be focused on all those things that are non-contractual. In a lot of buildings, because the reps are on the FAC, they will often use those FAC meetings as kind of that first conversation with the principal, and you know, use that as an opportunity to try to solve the problem and come up with solutions. But if it's an actual grievance, you don't have to wait for the FAC to act. You should go again to either the building rep or call your UNISERV, because the FAC does not have to approve a grievance. They don't have an official part in the grievance process. You as an individual might have a grievance concern. It doesn't have to be something. FACs are supposed to really be focused on things that affect a broad cross section of the Unit 1 members in a big way.
Yep, that's all accurate. That's all.
What about non-classroom based Unit 1 employees that now have to do telehealth services with students? Do they get the $30 too?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Who is being, Unit 1 members are being told they have to do telehealth meetings?
Yeah, that's different.
Whoever asked that question, please contact your UNISERV director. We need to know more about this.
So MW, please contact your UNISERV.
Because I don't really know that I fully understand the telehealth, but I don't know how that would become the responsibility of a Unit 1 member. Nurses and other folks are not in our unit. The only people I could think of that might need to do that sometimes are maybe social workers, or I don't know. I would need more information to answer that question.
So to be clear, co-teachers are paid in 30-minute increments, right?
Co-teachers can be paid in 30 minutes, but if the subbing without the co-teacher lasts more than 30 minutes, you get your full $60. I mean, $30, excuse me. So you're right. If the co-teacher is absent for 30 minutes or less, you could be paid in a half-hour increment. Anything beyond 30 minutes, you're going to get paid the full hour. Does that make sense?
I don't see a follow-up from them. I guess that makes sense. Okay. Can you have your mid-year conference during your planning time?
If you want to.
Okay. If I was assigned as an alternate testing coordinator and I do not receive a stipend for this, if I take over testing duties because the testing coordinator is on leave, am I still entitled to the $30 an hour compensation?
Yes, I think that would fall under the workload issue. You're not subbing, but you're taking on the workload of a non-classroom based Unit 1 member. So you should submit for the $30 an hour under that language, not under the substituting. Substituting can only be when you're actually working directly with students for an absent teacher. In the case of having to do the work of a missing testing coordinator, that would be more like under having to take on someone else's workload.
And I think this affects a lot of persons. If we attend an IEP meeting during our planning time and don't get the time later in the day, do we just lose the time or are we paid for it?
You're not paid for it. You need to have a conversation with the principal about that violation in the contract, and they have to A, fix that in the future, and try to make it whole sometime by offering you some kind of additional planning time to make up for it. There's nothing in the contract that says you get paid for IEP meetings, although, you know, I've heard some principals are trying to see if they can't pay them during IEP meetings. That's really not exactly what the language says, but if it happened and someone got money and that was good for them, we certainly wouldn't grieve it. We don't grieve what we don't know or what someone doesn't ask. If they don't ask us to grieve something, we don't grieve it.
I think that I know the answer to this one, but I'll let you, I think the answer is no, but I'll let you take it. What if a teacher is scheduled to teach and they have a disruptive or destructive student that's removed from another class and given to them? The gen ed teacher is present, but the student has to be removed for the aforementioned behaviors. They're
So-
wondering, do they get paid for that?
No, because that's not substituting. I think that if that is how they're solving discipline issues, is just by sticking unruly students into other people's classrooms, that really is an FAC issue to talk about what really should we be doing with students. If they're too unruly to be in teacher A's class, what makes us think that they'll behave in teacher B's class? I mean, sometimes it can work because maybe they're in a different grade or whatever, but certainly that doesn't fall under substitute pay because you're not substituting for an absent person. But if it's happening and people are objecting to it, it's definitely something the FAC should bring to the attention of the principal.
And
So
then-
Gary, I've got a few questions on Facebook.
All
I
right.
want to make sure we get to.
Thank you.
There's a question. Let me just pull this up. There's a question about a $4,000 salary increase for folks who are not nationally board certified, but who have other national certifications, and when that salary increase would take place.
That one they should be starting that one in December as well. And so we're still working with the system to make sure that's going to be part of all the money they're trying to catch up on. So that money should be coming out as part of their salary in December.
And Gary,
Okay.
there was some stipulations on that one as well. You had your national certification had to include a nationally recognized test. And I know that's going to be a point of contention for pupil personnel workers because they are some of them are nationally certified hearing officers, but the process to receive that did not have a standard written test. It had an oral exam and they're requiring a written test. So I don't know if that's something we may want to have to look at in the future.
It is. And I know Ray is dealing with that for therapists as well, physical therapists. And that's what you get that national board, non-NBCT, but nationally recognized certification. And you can see which ones PGCPS recognizes. It's on their website. Not everyone is. If you have one that's not on there and you think it should be, then you should bring that to the attention of PGCEA, because right now I know Ray is working to see to try to resolve the issue with the physical therapists and their national certifications.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Another question is, what is the maximum hours daily you will get paid if you cover a vacant position?
The answer is generally 6 hours, because obviously they back out lunch. You don't get paid. That's not duty time. And they also have to back out anytime you're not with the student. So it's if you're subbing all day, but you still have your planning time, then that would not, they'd have to take that out. So generally 6 hours. We're still trying to figure out exactly what the limit is for folks who are taking on somebody else's workload. Could that go over 6 hours, which would then be 7? So that's something we're still working out. So again, what folks should do, whether they're subbing or doing taking somebody's workload, they should be calculating every minute they're doing that. So if you're subbing and students are with you from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, that's 4 hours. Then you have lunch, that's half an hour. And then you have 3 more hours. You wouldn't have 3 more hours. So you have 2 more hours and 15 minutes or something, then you would be up to 6 hours. So it's important people keep track, not just when it's, I think Mark raised the point, make sure that you're being clear about what hours you're actually doing that extra work. or when you have those students.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Another question was about tuition reimbursement. Are CPD credits available for tuition reimbursement?
That's a Brian question. Brian?
Yeah, so in terms of CPDs, the question was, are CPDs eligible for reimbursement? Was that the question?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna have to do with the task force is check in on this, but traditionally the CPDs have not been. But I'm gonna check in with the tuition reimbursement task force and then check in also with Lori Brock to see, because I know at one point they were. And so there's nothing in writing that necessarily eliminates them from being eligible. And so there's nothing in the negotiated agreement that explicitly states that. We're more so going off of sort of what the system used to do and what they decide to do or not do. So we need to have influence in that. But I don't want to give you an answer to that right now. I will give you an answer before the end of the week, because I'm going to check in with Lori Brock tomorrow and just make sure that what I'm going to say is what they are also doing as they process. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think everything else that was on Facebook has also been kind of asked in our live Zoom as well.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
All right. Lynn, do you want to close this out as the chair?
Yes, thank you all for attending, and please make sure you contact your
Oh, we just lost you, Lynn.
having our very gray areas, and
Is it just me or is Lynn not, you can't hear her?
She's popping in and out.
Can't hear.
I
Okay,
think what she was saying is please make sure you contact your UNICEF, your support if you come into an issue that's a gray area.
what? So you have an accurate record when things are happening. As soon as you're able to, send yourself an email, what happened, so you have an accurate record of what occurred. So when you contact the FAC rep in your building or your UNICEF, you can explain exactly what the occurrence transpired so we can help you as much as possible.
All right, I guess we can then close out the meeting. I'm going to end I think I can end the Zoom.